This is a turbulent era. Wang Weidong, who was reborn, rode a 28 bicycle with big yellow hair. And rode on a private plane in the Gulfstream all the way. Keywords of the novel. Since 1979, I have been in the trend of the times without pop-ups. Since 1979, I have been downloading the complete set of TXT in the trend of the times. Since 1979, I have been reading the latest chapters in the trend of the times. Chapter 1. Going Home 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Going Home 1. This is a street fighting work written by a knowledgeable and experienced expert. Wang Weidong jumped out of the car carrying his packed luggage and stood at the station, looking at rows of family rooms and distant red residential buildings. This is the place where he grew up. Xianyang Chemical Factory. Second bastard. Weidong. Someone is shouting Wang Weidong's name loudly. When Wang Weidong turned his head to look, a permanent 28 bicycle came to a stop next to him with a creak, and a young man wearing a work uniform covered in oil was grinning at him with a simple smile. Brother Liang, have you finished work? Wang Weidong greeted with a smile. The young man talking to Wang Weidong is named Kong Deliang, who is 5 or 6 years older than Wang Weidong. He is a worker at the Xianyang chemical plant. Kong Deliang looked at Wang Weidong's luggage lying on the ground and asked, I have all my luggage back. Are you completely returning from the educated youth point? Yeah, it's been almost 2 years now, and I'm the only one left in the entire educated youth camp. The team secretary talks to me every night with great sincerity, implying that I should get out of here quickly. If it weren't for my parents wanting me to make a big difference in the vast world, I would have come back long ago. I don't want to leave my urban household registration and work in the ditch every day. Isn't it sick? Wang Weidong replied. Kong Deliang nodded in understanding and said, it's time for you to come back now. There are new policies in the country, and if your parents are old enough to retire, your children can take over. Speaking of which, Kong Deliang suddenly felt that he had said too much, because Wang Weidong and his older brother are still temporary workers in the factory and have not officially started working. Now the news that the factory can take over has spread, and many families have brothers and sisters who oppose each other everywhere. Don't let Wang Weidong go home and fight his big brother because of his talkativeness. But Kong Deliang was surprised to find that Wang Weidong's face was calm, as if he had not paid any attention to this good policy that was related to his fate. Reborn into this world, Wang Weidong did not have much joy in this matter, and he had no intention of taking over from the bottom of his heart. It's inconvenient to walk with so many things, I'll take you home with my bike. Kong Deliang said. Then please trouble you, Wang Weidong said rudely. Kong Deliang rode his bike, while Wang Weidong sat on the back seat of the bike, holding onto his luggage with both hands and hooking his toes under it. Kong Deliang vigorously pedaled his bicycle towards the family building where Wang Weidong's parents lived. Dozens of red brick and red tile family buildings were built in the early 1950s when the Soviet Union assisted in the construction of the Xianyang chemical plant. They were originally allocated to Wang Weidong's grandfather. After Wang Weidong's grandfather passed away 2 years ago, Wang Weidong's parents and older brother moved from the house they had allocated to them, and the house they had allocated to them was taken back by the unit and distributed to other employees. The family building is completely built in Soviet style, tall and spacious, even better than the family building built in the 1970s and 1980s. Wang Weidong, sitting on the back seat of his bicycle, looked at Kong Deliang's back and remembered an important thing. According to the memories of his past life in his mind, Kong Deliang died a year later in 1980. Kong Deliang and the girl Fang Yanmei in the workshop secretly fell in love. When they showcased their intentions to their parents and wanted to get married, they faced strong opposition from both parents. Wang Weidong no longer remembers the specific reason. In the 1970s, parents had the power to make decisions about their children's marriage matters, and could even be said to have a decisive say. If I say it's okay, if I don't want it, I have to be willing. If I say it's not okay, I won't be able to do it right away. Although both parents strongly opposed it, the two young people were so in love that they couldn't be separated. In the end, they couldn't help but drink pesticides together and were found to be urgently sent to the hospital for treatment. Kong Deliang came to life, while Fang Yanmei died. The whole family stared at Kong Deliang 24 hours a day, constantly persuading him. Kong Deliang just stared at the ceiling without saying a word. On the 12th day, the guards at home were somewhat lax, and Kong Deliang ran out of the house and disappeared. 2 days later, Kong Deliang's body was found in the river 5 miles away, and his mother lay on the ground rolling and crying loudly. The big horn on the roadside utility pole suddenly snapped twice before playing music. Spring water tinkling, spring water tinkling, spring water tinkling, jumping off the hill, flowing through the grass, and coming to my side. The songs released in recent years are all those powerful revolutionary songs, so this soothing and melodious spring water with a ding-dong sound became popular as soon as it was released. Now, this song is played first every day when broadcasting to Yang Chemical Factory. Comrades and family members, we are now broadcasting the news of Xianyang Chemical Factory. In response to the call of the party in the country, various workshops are fighting a big battle in May, and production news is spreading frequently. In the broadcast, the female announcer worked hard to report the factory news with a resounding and powerful voice. "Deliang, do you have a partner now?" Wang Weidong asked. Upon hearing Wang Weidong's question, the honest Kong Deliang panicked and couldn't hold on to the handlebars of his bicycle. The bicycle seemed to be drawing a dragon like a drunken one. "Don't talk nonsense. How could I do that kind of thing?" Kong Deliang said with a flushed face. "In this era, dating is like being a thief and cannot be admitted. Even sitting on a tiger stool and pouring chilly water cannot be admitted." Stabilizing his bike in his mind, Kong Deliang smiled and said to Wang Weidong, "Why are you so full of petty bourgeois ideas now that you're only 17 or 18? 17 or 18 is already quite young. My grandfather has already started a family at the age of 17. This time when I come back, I should also consider my own life's affairs. I need to carefully choose among so many girls in the factory." Wang Weidong said. "Let's solve the problem of work first. Without a job, which girl would be interested in you?" Kong Deliang said. "Which girl? I think Yanmei is pretty good. She has a good heart, a good temper, and cares about her family." Wang Weidong said. The bike suddenly tilted and was about to fall, causing 2 people on the bike to quickly jump off. Kong Deliang only realized that he had lost his composure after holding onto his bicycle. He immediately pretended to be serious and said to Wang Weidong, "Fang Yanmei is 3 years older than you. What do you think, you little brat? Besides, I heard that Fang Yanmei has a partner, please don't meddle in it." People in this era are still very easy to deceive, and a few words from Wang Weidong made Kong Deliang feel uneasy. "There are several people in our factory called Yanmei. Why do you think of Fang Yanmei alone? Besides, what's wrong with someone? If it's okay, I'll pry Yanmei over," said Wang Weidong. In the 1970s, how many shameless people would say they wanted to pry into someone else's object? Kong Deliang stared blankly at Wang Weidong. After a while, he turned the front of the car and pointed at Wang Weidong with hatred, saying, "Second scumbag, you don't even have a proper figure. You just hang around like this." After speaking, Kong Deliang gracefully rode his bike and walked away. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Going Home 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Going Home 2. Wang Weidong walked into the courtyard carrying a luggage roll, and a large group of old ladies sitting chatting in the courtyard looked at him with their eyes fixed on each other. Except for an old lady with gray and thin hair, who stared blankly at a point in the void in the distance. Wang Weidong walked up to the old lady and carefully looked at the white thing in her eyes before shouting, "Grandma." The slowly growing white thing in the old lady's eyes was cataracts, and Wang Weidong felt that it had grown slightly larger than when he left. The old lady shook her whole body and reached out her hands to touch Wang Weidong's chest, then groped and grabbed his arm. "Dong, you've come back. All the educated youth from the factory to the countryside have already returned, and you're the only one who hasn't," the old lady said with a tearful tone. The old ladies sitting around all smiled and said to Wang Weidong's grandmother, "The grandson is back," and the old lady is so happy that she cried. Wang Weidong nodded and greeted several old ladies, then carried his luggage in one hand and his grandmother in the other, walking towards his embrace. His family lives on the second floor, and Wang Weidong slowly climbed up the stairs, reminding his grandmother to be careful of falling while walking. The old man can't see, but it's really stuffy to stay at home all day. It's really difficult. There are 3 doors on the second floor, and the old lady trembled as she took out a key from her pocket and handed it to Wang Weidong. Wang Weidong inserted the key into the lock and twisted it open with a click. 2 people walked into the room, which had 2 living quarters, a kitchen, and a 1 square meter squatting toilet. Being able to build such a building with water supply and drainage in the early 1950s is just a phone away from the beautiful future of electric lights and telephones depicted upstairs and downstairs at that time. The old lady held onto her grandson's arm tightly from beginning to end, and she kept pulling Wang Weidong to sit by her bed. Looking at the 2 beds placed in the room, Wang Weidong asked, "Do you live in the same room as my brother? What can we do? There are only 2 rooms, your father and mother have 1 room to sleep in, and your brother and I have 1 room to sleep in," the old lady replied. Wang Weidong stood up, but his grandmother still held on to his arm. "When I was a child, my grandmother held him and held his little hand, but now that I am old and can't see him anymore, I have shown him a childlike attachment to adults. Milk, I'll go out and buy some vegetables and bring back some meat," said Wang Weidong. The old lady slowly released her hand and said, "It's not easy for you to save $2 in the countryside. Don't spend money recklessly. I finally came back, the whole family will have a meal together," said Wang Weidong. He walked out the door and downstairs towards the direction of the Supply and Marketing Cooperative. There are a total of 600 to 700 employees in Xianyang Chemical Factory, along with over 20,000 family members. There is only one Supply and Marketing Cooperative, which is a department store, with everything from sewing machines and bicycles to clothing, shoes, hats, stationery, tobacco, alcohol, canned biscuits, and so on. Of course, pork is also sold here, but Wang Weidong does not have a meat ticket, so he cannot buy pork from the Supply and Marketing Society. Outside the Supply and Marketing Cooperative, there are 2 rows of people who sell vegetables, eggs, duck eggs, and other agricultural products face to face. They are all from nearby rural areas, mostly women and elderly people. They bring the vegetables from their own plots and the eggs laid by their chickens to sell here for a few dollars. The production team settles the labor income in a lump sum based on the annual wages earned by different labor forces in the autumn, and the amount of money each wage is worth. Farmers rely entirely on their own land and their own poultry and pigs for their daily income. But Northeasterners are generous, and after slaughtering their pigs, at least half of them must be taken out to drink and eat meat for the whole village, while the rest is for sale. Now there is a wooden table next to those vegetable sellers, and a middle-aged man is standing there with a knife selling meat. This situation was impossible 2 years ago. Wang Weidong first bought 3 pounds of morning beans and then walked to the pork stall. "How do you sell this pork?" Wang Weidong asked. "1 pound per piece," replied the middle-aged man selling pork. The pork sold in the Supply and Marketing Cooperative is 80 cents, and you have to buy it wherever the meat seller cuts it. Those who know each other well should start from the back of their buttocks, while those who don't know may start from the bloody neck, which is the area near the pig's neck where there are more lymph nodes. "Here, cut me a pound." Wang Weidong gestured on the pork belly with his fingers. "Okay," the middle-aged man said, cutting off a piece of pork with a knife. Wang Weidong saw very clearly with his sharp eyes. The meat was narrow on top and wide on the bottom, which means the skin was 1 finger wider than the meat on top. It's 1 pound, 2 yang high, the middle-aged man shouted, holding the scale. Hold the scale and show it to me, said Wang Weidong. The middle-aged man stared blankly at Wang Weidong. Others heard him report his weight and even paid for it, but today this person is really troublesome. He reluctantly lifted the scale in front of Wang Weidong. The weight was indeed in the area of 1 pound and 2 taels, but the scale rod couldn't lift it at all. Wang Weidong glanced at the bottom of the scale. Fortunately there was no magnet or anything like that. Deception is also a process of gradual evolution. At this time, people have not thought of this, and their hearts are not so dark. Wang Weidong used his fingers to move the hanging rope back on the weighing scale, weighing 1 pound or 2 square meters. Big brother, you made a mistake just now and calculated 1 or 2 more, said Wang Weidong. The middle-aged man showed an embarrassed expression on his face. If this situation occurred in 20 or 30 years, those people would not feel embarrassed. They are likely to become angry and instead greet Wang Weidong's ancestors for 18 generations. So it was this embarrassed expression that made Wang Weidong develop a liking for this middle-aged man. He took out the money from his pocket, counted out a piece of money and handed it to the middle-aged man, then wrapped the meat in the paper on the case and walked back. Wang Weidong walked into the courtyard and saw a large row of bicycles parked by the wall. Those who had finished work had all returned, and the bicycles were parked here, so they wouldn't be lost at night. Wang Weidong walked up to a Phoenix bike and watched as the bike refused to leave for a long time. This bicycle used to belong to his grandfather, but now it's unclear whether it's his father Wang Haifu or his older brother Wang Xianjin riding it. This bicycle carries many beautiful memories of Wang Weidong. When he was very young, his grandfather used it to take him fishing by the nearby river. Walking back home, Wang Weidong saw that his elder brother Wang Xianjin had already returned, but the 2 brothers only exchanged a glance and did not speak. He and his older brother have been at odds with each other since childhood. Entering the kitchen, Wang Weidong began cooking. He was responsible for cooking when he was at the youth camp, and his cooking skills were widely recognized. Before graduating from junior high school and going to the countryside, Wang Weidong worked as a temporary worker in a factory cafeteria for a year. He worked as a chef for Lao Yang, who was a master chef specializing in cooking for Soviet experts in the 1950s. In just 1 year, Wang Weidong learned a good cooking skill. Wash vegetables, cut meat and stir-fry the pot, and soon the pot of stewed meat will emit a tempting aroma. I would like to explain the issue of eating pork in rural areas, but young friends don't understand. How to make pork fat and greasy, just eat a few pieces is enough. The old man said that throwing large pieces of meat into the pot and boiling it while pouring cold water on top of the meat would make the oil inside the meat greasy if eaten. When treating guests, please do your best not to offend anyone. Once there was a house where autumn soybeans were collected and piled up in the yard, and it caught fire in the middle of the night. Even the bean stalks and the soybeans inside were burning brightly, and it could be seen from more than 10 miles away. Everyone guessed that it was because they were not invited to those few places during the banquet, and as a result, they retaliated, but there was no evidence. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Dispute 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 4. Dispute 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Dispute 2. As the meal was about to finish, Wang Weidong suddenly said, "Dad, I'll go find a house tomorrow, and then I'll move out with my grandmother." The room was once again completely silent. After a while, Wang Haifu asked, "You don't even have a job now. How can you live by renting a house outside?" "Dad, you don't have to worry. My younger brother has the ability, and he will definitely have a good time outside." Wang Xianxian retorted. "I can support myself and my grandmother no matter how I have hands and feet," Wang Weidong replied. When sleeping at night, Wang Weidong can only lay the mattress he brought back on the cement floor. There's one more night, it's going to be relaxed tomorrow. Wang Xian deliberately said loudly. Wang Weidong lay down and closed his eyes, saying, Wang Xian, remember, you won't be my brother from now on. You don't need to say hello when you see me. Also, Grandpa's bicycle is left for me, and I will take it with me tomorrow. The next morning, Wang Weidong packed his luggage and ran outside to find a house. The 20,000 to 30,000 people living here are all from Xianyang Chemical Factory, and they are very familiar with each other. Wang Weidong spent over 2 hours learning about a suitable house from an old lady. The son of the old Sun family has been admitted to college, and the daughter has been admitted to a vocational school. Now, the western room at home is empty, and a few days ago, she said she wanted to rent it out, the gray-haired old lady said to Wang Weidong. Watching it approaching noon, Wang Weidong stood at the door waiting. After an hour and a half, the male and female masters of the house returned home one after another. The most proud members of the Xianyang Chemical Factory now are the male owner Sun Yukai and female owner Xie Yulan. The son was admitted to Dalian Institute of Technology in the second year of the National College Entrance Examination, and the daughter graduated from junior high school and was admitted to the well-known Muden Preschool Normal School in the province. Wherever the couple goes now, they are greeted with envious gazes. Both of them had a vague impression of Wang Weidong, and when he mentioned the names of his grandfather and father, both of them had a sudden realization. Sun Yukai touched Wang Weidong's head and said, the second son of former Wang Haifu has grown so tall. Come back and work hard. The national policy is so good now, there are plenty of opportunities for young people. Join the army, take over, take the college entrance exam, and all roads lead to Rome. When it comes to the 3 words, college entrance examination, Sun Yukai deliberately emphasized his tone, causing a buzzing sound in the glass. There is a bed of Kong in the West House, which is perfect for you and your grandmother to live in. All the cabinets and tables in the house are reserved for you to use. The pot that connects to the West House's earthen Kong is reserved for you to cook, and the tap water is from the factory. I will cover the electricity bill, and you can pay 4 yuan a month, Sun Yukai continued. Now electricity is for lighting, at most adding a radio. Okay, uncle, I'll give you money on a monthly basis from now on. I'll give you money for 2 months first, Wang Weidong nodded and said. The house has been agreed upon, and Wang Weidong will immediately go back to pack his things. He used his bicycle to move his grandfather's pots, pans, and bedding back and forth here. The last time, instead of using his bicycle, he picked up his grandmother Huang Guiying and bid farewell to the old ladies in the courtyard, turning around and leaving. Ah, this old lady is pulling her grandson up with a lot of feces and urine. It's not a pain in vain, said an old lady, looking at the backs of Wang Weidong and Huang Guiying with emotion. Almost no daughter.in.law or mother.in.law in everyone's home is like a mother and daughter, with no tongue or teeth touching. It's already great to have a filial grandson. When it was almost time for dinner, Wang Weidong went to the state-owned hotel with 2 large bowls and bought 4 mantou and a plate of dried bean curd with pepper. While eating with his grandmother, Wang Weidong said, tomorrow I'll borrow a small cart to buy half a ton of coal from the coal yard, and then go to the mountain to make a few bundles of firewood. From now on, I'll cook. If you can't see it, stay away from the stove. At night, grandparents and grandchildren lay on the Kong, and Huang Guiying reached out her thin hand to touch her grandson's broad back, feeling very at ease. It's good that your grandfather, who never dies, dies more than 2 years late. He's the deputy director of the workshop, and you can solve your work problem with him. But you don't have to worry, I'll go to the factory tomorrow to find your grandfather's apprentices, many of whom have become department heads and directors. Even if I have this old face, I'll have to solve your work. You can start with a large collective first, said Huang Guiying. You don't have to worry, I'll handle my own affairs. Wang Weidong said. Every time the director of the stone factory sees me get off my bike and chat with me, he's so enthusiastic. His daughter is about the same age as you and is polio-prone, Wang Weidong said on her own. Wang Weidong couldn't help but turn over and sit up, saying, "Grandma, don't say anything more, and don't do anything behind my back. I'll say it again, I'll solve my own problems on my own. You don't listen to advice like that dead ghost of your grandfather." Wang Weidong murmured. Wang Weidong used to be a very strong woman. Wang Weidong's father Wang Haifu was introduced to Wang Weidong's mother Li Yufeng, and they were both very satisfied with each other. However, Wang Weidong said she didn't agree with anything. Finally, Wang Weidong's grandfather nodded and agreed to the marriage, and Wang Haifu and Li Yufeng finally got married. Now that Wang Weidong is old and her husband has died, she can no longer see and can only live with her son, which is in the hands of her daughter-in-law Li Yufeng. Thanks to this, Wang Weidong, this precious grandson, has returned. After a while, Wang Weidong said, "I want to go out and earn more money. First, cure your eyes. You don't need to spend money to see a doctor in a factory hospital, but the doctors there can't perform complex surgeries like cataract removal. To perform such surgeries, you need to go to a large hospital in Harbin, which may cost a lot of money. I'm almost 70 years old, how many more years can I live? What are you doing with that unjustified money? Even if you have money, you have to save it and wait for me to marry you in the future." Wang Weidong said. The next day, Wang Weidong was busy buying coal, firewood, and handling household registration and grain books, and it took him 4 or 5 days to complete the task. He only saved over 100 yuan in his life as an educated youth for over 2 years, and now he has less than 100 yuan left. In the morning, Wang Weidong cooked his meal with his grandmother and rode his bicycle with a fishing rod to the riverbank to fish. Organize the fish float, put on earthworms, and throw the fish hook into the water. Wang Weidong is smoking a great brand cigarette, waiting for the fish to take the bait. A bicycle rang, and a bicycle quickly rode to the wooden bridge by the river. It saw someone fishing by the river, and the cyclist got off the bike and walked to Wang Weidong's side, saying, "The fish in the river used to have an old nose. Now that there are more uses of 666 and DDT, the fish in the river are also fewer." Wang Weidong handed out a cigarette and asked, "Big brother, don't you need to work? It is now 1978, and there are still 3 to 4 years left before the implementation of the large-scale contract in northeast China. Farmers must work collectively on time. Go ahead, I'll take the vegetables from my own plot to the county market and sell them at a low price after 5 o'clock in the morning. Now I'll go back to Jianmao and play around for a day. Brother, I'm leaving." The person finished saying this and rode his bike over a wooden bridge towards the distant village. Watching the person's back, Wang Weidong's eyes lit up. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Brave Action for Righteousness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Brave Action for Righteousness. Now that policies have been relaxed, purchasing vegetables from rural areas and selling them in the market is also a way to make money. Big brother. Wang Weidong stood up and shouted. The rural elder stopped his bicycle on a wooden bridge over 10 meters long and turned to look at Wang Weidong. Wang Weidong ran up the wooden bridge and said to the rural elder brother, "Big brother, how much did you sell at the market this time?" "A few water radishes, beans and persimmons, a little coriander. I made 30 cents in just 2 hours of going back and forth," said the rural elder brother with a hint of pride. "Big brother, I'm an educated youth who just returned from the countryside and doesn't even have a job. I'll be waiting for you here tomorrow. Can you sell the vegetables to me at a cheaper price and I'll go to the market to sell them? It's not easy for you to earn 2 cents from growing vegetables, I'll run errands to earn 1 cent. Wang Weidong said while handing over a cigarette. The rural elder looked at Wang Weidong's face and asked, "Brother, I took it out to sell some money because I couldn't eat the vegetables at home. Why are you doing this when you're so young? After more than 20 years of education, almost everyone feels that doing small business is not something that serious people do. Besides, 1 dime is only enough to buy 2 mantou, plus food stamps, which is not enough for your life, said the elder brother in the countryside. In a few months, my parents will send me to become a soldier. I can't just eat my parents' food at home these few months, earning a little bit is a bit. When you go back to work and rest, tell others to sell me the dishes from several families together, and you can also earn a little bit, said Wang Weidong. Upon hearing Wang Weidong's words, the rural elder brother looked embarrassed. Is it still human to earn money from relatives and friends? You're not making their money, but doing them a favor. Everyone has money to buy soy sauce and vinegar, as gifts, and buying snacks for children, isn't it okay? Wang Weidong advised. This is doing a favor for others and serving the people. Wearing the moral hat makes one feel much more comfortable when making money again. Since that's the case, I'll go back and talk to them. It's not easy for you either. I've helped you with this favor. You'll be waiting for me here at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, said the rural elder brother with great righteousness. Watching the rural elder brother ride his bicycle far away, Wang Weidong immediately rushed to the county market. More than 100 vegetable sellers set up stalls along the street to form a simple farmer's market. They pushed their bicycles to each stall and inquired about the prices of various vegetables, ensuring they had a clear understanding. As he approached the crossroads, a black shadow fell on his head. Wang Weidong instinctively shrank his head, and a few round objects hit his head, instantly releasing a sticky liquid. The black shadow suddenly hit the bicycle seat and then flipped to the ground. It turned out to be a basket, with several yellowed eggs rolling out of it. Wang Weidong touched his hair and an eggshell fell to the ground with his sticky fingers. Just as he was still confused about what had happened, an elderly woman in her 60s sat on the ground, patting her thighs and crying loudly. I've been missing virtue for 8 lifetimes, you've smashed all my eggs, the old lady said while crying. Old and immortal, can't you see? I'm the only one selling eggs in the market. A young man shouted, not relieved by just cursing. He raised his foot and pretended to kick the old lady, but in the end, he didn't kick it out. The best location for the market is at the crossroads. Now there are 2 earthen baskets containing 200 to 300 eggs, and no one can see anyone selling eggs in other parts of the market. It seems that the egg business at the county farmers market is completely under the control of this young man. It's easy to say that we agreed to let you sell the eggs to me for 4 cents each, but you just don't want to. Now you can't make a penny, and you have to pay back, the young man said fiercely. Everyone in the farmers market stared blankly, and no one dared to step forward. What are you looking at? The young man shouted at Wang Weidong with his eyes wide open. He couldn't hit the old lady with his hands, so he prepared to fire on Wang Weidong. Did you throw the egg just now? Wang Weidong pointed to his sticky hair and asked. I threw it, what do you want? The young man stared at Wang Weidong and asked. This is a blatant provocation. In front of everyone, if you're a man, come and hit me. If you're a coward, get out of here. Any young man with strong blood will not back down under such provocation. He can lose anything but not face. Accompanied by the old lady's crying, Wang Weidong let go of his bicycle and let it fall directly to the ground, then clenched his fists and rushed towards the young man. He punched the young man in the chest, which was a sign of cowardice. A sign of not daring to give up. Why not hit him directly in the face? The young man disregarded Wang Weidong's punch and kicked him in the stomach. Wang Weidong collapsed on his back, and this kick made him grow instantly. He lay on the ground and kicked the young man in the leg. The young man let out a painful scream and then threw himself at Wang Weidong. Both of them lay on the ground tearing and fighting against each other. Sometimes Wang Weidong flipped over, and sometimes the young man rode on Wang Weidong. In no time, both of them had torn clothes and nosebleeds flowing profusely. No one came out to fight, everyone watched helplessly, and the two of them fought until they were exhausted and unable to move. "You bastard, wait!" the young man gasped for breath. Wang Weidong, with a blue nose and swollen face, stared silently at the young man with the same bruise like a barking dog. "Wait, kid," the young man struggled to get up and gritted his teeth. Wang Weidong also got up and picked up his bicycle to walk outside the market. Wang Weidong bought a scale and a pig-killing knife from the County Supply and Marketing Society before riding his bike back to Xianyang Chemical Factory. He bought a few buns from a state-owned restaurant and returned home. Grandma Huang Guiying said while eating steamed buns, "Eating restaurants every day, I don't know how much money you make." "You wait for me to earn a lot of money and make you eat well every day," said Wang Weidong. At night, under the light, Wang Weidong was sewing on the torn area of his clothes. Grandma can't see her eyes, so she can't see Wang Weidong's swollen face and tattered clothes. At 5 o'clock the next day, Wang Weidong got up to buy deep-fried dough stick soybean milk and arranged for his grandmother to eat. He took 2 deep-fried dough sticks and rode his bicycle to the wooden bridge 5 miles away. When he arrived at the bridge, the rural elder brother was already waiting there. "That's all, there's no need to weigh. When each family handed me the vegetables, they quoted me a price, which is a total of 3.40 yuan, said the rural elder brother. "This is 4 yuan, you don't need to change," Wang Weidong handed the money over and said. He gambled on the simplicity of his rural elder brother. "I'm sorry, 60 cents is too much," said the rural elder brother with embarrassment. "That's how it will be in the future, I'll give you 20% of the reward," Wang Weidong replied. He took out the burlap bag he brought and put the vegetables into the burlap bag according to the type, then tied it with a rope on the back seat of his bicycle and rode towards the county town. "Brother, let's switch to a basket next time," the rural elder brother shouted from behind. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Small Trial Ox Knife. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Small Trial Ox Knife. When Wang Weidong rode his bike for almost an hour to reach the county farmer's market, he realized the meaning of the rural elder asking him to replace the vegetables with baskets. The vegetables in the burlap bags must have been damaged a lot due to friction after a long time of bumping. The cart entered the farmer's market, and the good spots on both sides of the street were already occupied by people. He could only park his bicycle in the area outside. Carefully pour the vegetables from the burlap bag onto the ground, then lay the burlap bag and stack the vegetables according to their types on the burlap bag. After completing these tasks, Wang Weidong looked up and found that the space he occupied was almost the largest among the dozens of people around him. The vast majority of people in the market are elderly, old men and women like Grandma Wang Weidong who do not need to work in rural areas due to their age. They got up at around 4 o'clock and picked some vegetables from their own homes to sell in the market, so the variety and quantity of vegetables were less than those of Wang Weidong. Wang Weidong felt a great sense of familiarity. When he was young, his grandmother took him to the countryside to visit relatives and sit on the kong with his uncles and grandmas chatting. The people looked at Wang Weidong playing on the ground wearing patchwork clothes and eating big pancakes, always sighing, "They really have a good time." Beside Wang Weidong was an old lady squatting, with 3 or 4 pounds of red and yellow tomatoes in a small basket. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the farmer's market. Toll collectors arrived. 2 people wearing armbands started collecting money from stalls on both sides of the street. Wang Weidong clearly felt the nervousness of the old lady beside him, her 2 thin hands groping around her thighs. "Old lady, 5 cents," the middle-aged man in his 40s who was charging said to the old lady. The old lady quickly stood up like a child who had done something wrong and awkwardly said, I didn't bring any money with me. Can't we wait until it's sold out before we go to the bank? Sell it out and then pay. Will you wait here after selling it out? You've already run away. Hurry up and pay," said the middle-aged man impatiently. He doesn't know how many times he will encounter such things every day. The old lady put her hand into her pocket and fumbled for a while, then took out 2 steel coins and said hesitantly, "There's really no money, only 2 cents. Really not." The middle-aged man stared at the old lady with a skeptical gaze, as if looking at a class enemy. "Forget it, 2 cents is better than letting you run away." The middle-aged man picked up 2 cents from the old lady's hand and said. Next, the middle-aged man looked at Wang Weidong, who had a very unfamiliar and young face. He was one of the few young people in the farmer's market. The middle-aged man paused for a moment and said, "Young man, you occupy too much space, pay a penny." Wang Weidong obediently took out a penny from his pocket and handed it to the middle-aged man, watching him leave. There are 3 vegetable sales peaks in the farmer's market, in the morning, noon, and evening, especially after the cadres and employees finish work. The morning is the second peak, and many people go to the market to sell vegetables and then cook breakfast when they wake up in the morning. Although the location was not good, Wang Weidong quickly sold 4 or 5 pounds of tomatoes, 2 pounds of water radish, and 2 bundles of coriander. But the old lady around her didn't sell any of the 3 or 4 pounds of tomatoes. Wang Weidong lowered his head and looked at the tomatoes in the old lady's basket. They looked like red and yellow gemstones, without any green. They looked very good, but no one bought them. A few more people had bought groceries from Wang Weidong and left. Wang Weidong finally figured out the taste. The people who came to buy his groceries all squatted in front of him and picked, while the old lady sold too few tomatoes to pick. This is human psychology, only those chosen by oneself are good, so even though the old lady sells good tomatoes, it's because there are too few that no one buys them. The old lady eagerly watched as others came to buy Wang Weidong's dishes, but no one bought those few tomatoes. "Auntie, sell me your tomatoes and hurry home with the money," said Wang Weidong. The old lady looked at Wang Weidong in confusion. Wang Weidong put the tomatoes in the old lady's basket into the tray and picked up the weighing rod to show the old lady. "Watch it, 2.5 pounds, 2.5 cents. Wang Weidong said. "He is calculated based on the selling price. Even 2 cents. The old lady said awkwardly. Wang Weidong took out 2 10-cent bills and a 5-cent steel coin from his pocket and stuffed them into the old lady's hand. "Young man, thank you," the old lady said and stumbled away carrying the basket. There are still 7 or 8 miles left from the county town to the village, and the old lady needs to walk for an hour. Wang Weidong poured the tomatoes from the tray into the tomatoes on his own sack. Not long after, the old lady's tomatoes were picked out and bought by the vegetable seller. In the distance, the young man who tumbled and fought with Wang Weidong on the ground yesterday stood with another young man watching Wang Weidong squatting on the ground selling vegetables. The young man has a round face, smiling brightly and with a bright smile. The young man looked at Wang Weidong in the distance with smiling eyes and asked, "Brother Chang, is that the kid? He has a lot of courage and dares to make trouble on the emperor's head. Bastard, I lost face yesterday. I must find it back." The young man who was fighting with Wang Weidong gritted his teeth and said. "What are you hesitating about? Let's find a few people to go up together." "He's covered in parts everywhere," said the young man with a round face. This young man must have been a beloved child since childhood, with a chubby face that shows that he has always listened to his parents and teachers and likes to be a good child who does good things like his uncle. Just now, when he said he wanted to hit Wang Weidong with a few people, his tone was like he wanted to help the old lady cross the road. Of course, he did help the old lady cross the road, but when she wasn't paying attention, he touched her pocket. "I must deal with this kid. But we can't fight unprepared battles. First, you help me understand this kid's background and see if he has any background. Once you understand, I'll find someone to deal with him," Chang said. He took out 2 yuan and handed it to the young man with a round face, saying, "Tomorrow, you'll be selling vegetables next to him, get close to him, and treat him to a drink at noon. You must have figured out this kid's situation thoroughly." The young man with a round face took 2 yuan and put it into his pocket, saying with a smile, "Look, Brother Chang, listen to me tomorrow afternoon." Wang Weidong in the distance looked at the leftover vegetables on the sack, which were only 1/5 of the original. He suddenly stood up and shouted loudly, "It's cheaper, just give it money and sell it. All the vegetables for 1 yuan are buns." This voice is of great historical significance. It is the first time in the history of Fengshan County Farmers Market that someone has jumped off a building for a big sale. 10 minutes later, Wang Weidong had already folded his burlap bag and clipped it onto the back seat of his bicycle, riding away from the farmer's market. The young man who had a fight with Wang Weidong yesterday rubbed his head and murmured, "This kid really has 2 sons." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. No Promise 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. No Promise 1. At noon, Wang Weidong returned to his home at Xianyang Chemical Factory and looked at the 4 or 5 flower baskets to the east of the yard. A flower basket is not a basket for holding flowers, but a large basket woven from willow to hold apples. Xianyang Chemical Factory distributes a large amount of benefits every year during the Chinese New Year, including apples and pears purchased from Liaoning Province. Each family has a basket, and the entire factory is filled with the smell of apples. Now the apples and pears have been eaten long ago, leaving a few flower baskets in the yard of the landlord Sun Youcai's house. At noon, Sun Youcai and Xia Yulan returned home and saw Wang Weidong cooking. Wang Weidong cut the cucumber into thin shreds, chopped the garlic into foam, added soy sauce and vinegar, mixed a cold dish, then filled 2 bowls of millet porridge and ate with grandma with mantou. Weidong is really good at cooking, he cuts cucumbers so finely. Sun Youcai sighed and said, "I've been working with Master Yang for a year, and if he doesn't cut well, he'll scold me." Wang Weidong replied with a smile. The biggest advantage of a factory cafeteria is its affordability. However, chefs like Mr. Yang have developed a habit of being careless when cooking, and they cannot or even cannot deceive others. Therefore, they demand strict standards from those around them, which makes some workers feel dissatisfied with Mr. Yang. Big pot rice has its benefits. Those who do well and those who don't do well don't show off. Those who do well and those who don't are just birds of a feather. Gradually, many people become lazy. "Uncle Sun, I see several flower baskets in the yard. Can you give me 2?" Wang Weidong asked. "Those baskets are reserved for the fire. If you want them, I'll give them to you," Sun Youcai replied generously. After finishing lunch, Wang Weidong parked his bicycle in the yard and tied 2 baskets with hemp ropes on both sides of the bicycle. Grandma Huang Guiying sat on the kong and talked to Wang Weidong through the open window. She couldn't see what Wang Weidong was doing. The biggest problem with old age is loneliness. Wang Weidong was at home today, and the old lady finally found someone to talk to. "Aren't you chatting with Mrs. Gao?" Wang Weidong asked. Mrs. Lao Gao is the person who introduced the house to Wang Weidong, and she is already in her 70s. Mrs. Lao Gao has to take care of her grandson. Her grandson is mischievous at the age of 5, either running or crawling. Every day, Mrs. Lao Gao is exhausted to death, Huang Guiying replied. After tying the basket, Wang Weidong felt very satisfied. It was indeed much better to put the vegetables in the baskets on both sides than in a burlap bag. At night, Sun Youcai returned home and saw 2 flower baskets tied to the bicycles in the yard, feeling very strange. "Weidong, why are you tying the basket to the bicycle?" Sun Youcai asked. "I'm going to ride my bike to the countryside to harvest vegetables and then sell them at the farmer's market," Wang Weidong replied. Sun Youcai's body froze for a moment as he watched Wang Weidong speechless for a while, his gaze resembling that of a young man who had stumbled. "Weidong, Weidong, come in." Grandma Huang Guiying shouted. Wang Weidong walked into the inner room and stood by the kong. Huang Guiying suddenly grabbed a sweep and charged towards Wang Weidong. Although the old lady cannot see with her eyes, her ears are actually very sensitive. She can determine the position of Wang Weidong by listening to the footsteps, and with a steady and fierce sweep, she hits Wang Weidong's body. "You're nothing, I'll beat you to death. You've lost all my face." Huang Guiying cursed. Sun Yukai and his wife Xia Yulan stood at the door of the room, looking at the scene with a look of hatred towards the iron. "Let's go, the movie is about to start," Sun Yukai said to his wife. He said as if explaining to Wang Weidong, "Workshop invoice, watch the play at 6:30 p.m. This sentence contains many meanings. It's great to be a worker. Every month, I receive a salary without hesitation, including work clothes, towels, soap, rubber shoes in the summer, big toe shoes in the winter, mooncakes on August 15th, Chinese New Year fruits, pork, peanuts, melon seeds, and occasional movie tickets. Children don't spend money on reading, they don't spend money on medical treatment, and their houses are allocated by the government. It's like going to heaven." But Wang Weidong, on the other hand, is not in the mood to speculate and instead goes to sell vegetables, saying that he has thrown away dead people. Grandma Huang Guiying suddenly collapsed on the Kong, facing the wall without saying a word to Wang Weidong. "It's gradually getting dark, and there's not even a radio at home, so we can only lie down and sleep." Two people lying on the Kong couldn't sleep, their eyes wide open in the darkness, thinking about their thoughts. 2 hours later, Sun Yukai and Xia Yulan returned home, but they had not yet emerged from the plot of the play, in the silence. "Do you say they are husband and wife?" Xia Yulan asked. "I don't think so, they're all actors and have a homosexual relationship," Sun Yukai replied. Xia Yulan's tongue clicked and she said, "Being an actor is really not easy. It's not that couples still need to shake hands on stage." Wang Weidong almost burst out laughing when he heard this sentence through the door. In this era, it is surprising and embarrassing to see men and women shaking hands in movies and dramas, but decades later, actors and actresses have opened their mouths and become entangled. I don't know if they would have a heart attack when they saw this scene at that time. At about 4 o'clock the next day, Wang Weidong got up to make a fire and cooked a pot of porridge. He ate 2 bowls of congee with pickles and went out to pick up the dishes with his bicycle. Upon hearing the commotion outside, Sun Yukai sighed and said, "Ah, this child." As the father of a college student and a vocational school student, Sun Yukai is well qualified to sigh for Wang Weidong. Wang Weidong arrived very early today, standing by the wooden bridge waiting for the arrival of the rural elder brother. Yesterday he earned a total of over 2 yuan, which would make him over 70 yuan in a month, while his father, Wang Haifu, was only over 60 yuan a month as an 8th-level worker. Wang Weidong felt that there was still a lot of room for improvement, at least much easier than his father's salary increase. "Comrade!" A shout came from afar, and the rural elder brother pushed a small car towards him, which was filled with various vegetables. These dishes were all given to him. The Zhang family had 20 cents, the Li family had 30 cents, and in the end, they had gathered so much. Nowadays, many people in the production team work hard without putting in effort, but even if they don't put in effort, they have to endure time, so it's not easy to find time to sell vegetables. Now it's good, someone is running errands for them. 4 yuan in total, said the rural elder brother. Wang Weidong counted 4 octagonal coins and handed them to the rural elder brother, of which the octagonal coins were 20% of the agreed-upon rural elder brother's commission. He first placed the water radish, water bamboo shoots, and melons under the basket, and the leafy vegetables on top. After filling the 2 baskets, he put half a bag in a burlap bag. "Big brother, what is your surname?" Wang Weidong handed a cigarette and asked. The rural elder brother was stunned for a moment before answering, "My surname is Zhang, I will establish a mourning seal." He felt that Wang Weidong's words were a bit strange. Nowadays, everyone is talking about being gay, but Wang Weidong always calls him big brother. Let's just have so much every day in the future. No matter how much, I can't fit it anymore. I can't come even on rainy days. See you tomorrow. Wang Weidong said and rode his bike north. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. No Promise 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. No Promise 2. Wang Weidong had just pushed his bicycle into the street where the farmer's market was located when he heard someone shouting. Young man, I have already occupied a good space for you. The old lady who sold tomatoes waved to Wang Weidong yesterday. Wang Weidong hurriedly pushed the cart over, and the old lady occupied more than 1 meter of space for him, which was very close to the three-way intersection. Before Wang Weidong could park his bike, the old lady eagerly picked up the basket and said, Young man, 3 pounds of tomatoes. Just give me 2 cents, and the one who charges will come back later. The old lady wants to sell tomatoes to Wang Weidong as soon as possible in order to save 5 cents on management fees. Wang Weidong first gave money and then placed the tomatoes in the basket on the ground. Auntie, why don't you pick more? It's okay to bring a little green, said Wang Weidong. The old lady stared at Wang Weidong and said solemnly, How can we do that? I can't sell anything I'm not familiar with. Wang Weidong looked at the old lady's distant figure in a daze. 3 to 5 years later, under the impact of the commodity economy, will the old lady change her simple personality now? Excuse me. Let me squeeze. A chubby young man carrying a basket squeezed towards Wang Weidong's side. The young man crouched on the ground, smiling brightly, and looked up at Wang Weidong standing there. This young man is Changa Rang, who monopolized the egg business in the entire farmer's market yesterday. The young person's name is Kong Lingguang, their nickname is Bao, Xiaobao or Dabao. His parents, grandparents, and his calls were filled with indulgence. Kong Lingguang has been likable since birth, and everyone giggles when he sees him. He is as chubby as a ginseng doll, and everyone likes to hug him. From elementary school to middle school, and then to society, Kong Lingguang used his simple, innocent, and lovely appearance to deceive countless people. From childhood to adulthood, he was scammed by scammers using bullet shells to deceive glass balls, and even to deceive girls by deceiving them without any purpose. Kong Lingguang enjoyed the feeling of playing around with others. Since childhood, my family has noticed Kong Lingguang's flaws, but due to indulgence, they almost always turn a blind eye. Kong Lingguang's mother once blocked her son and a girl on the Kong in the room at home. The woman first physically attacked the girl and then cursed, Mother dogs are not good, male dogs are not good. If I see you seducing my son again in the future, I will kill you little bitch. Kong Lingguang stood against the wall, innocent and pitiful, really like a child lured by bad people, with his head down and a face full of grievances and fear. The corruption of Chang Gu Chuguachang, who monopolizes the agricultural market, is superficial, while the corruption of Kong Lingguang is deeply buried in his heart. In the past 2 years, Kong Lingguang has been cheating on food and drink outside all day with his cute appearance and lotus-like mouth. Yesterday, Chu Guochang asked him to explore Wang Weidong's background. This morning, Kong Lingguang came with a few eggs in a basket. The day before yesterday, you had a fight with a bastard selling eggs at the intersection. What a man. No one dared to provoke him in this farmer's market before, but you're still amazing, big brother. I'm just selling a few eggs for $2, and by your side, I feel at ease, Kong Lingguang said to Wang Weidong. Upon hearing Kong Lingguang's words, Wang Weidong was greatly satisfied psychologically. He pulled out a pig-killing knife from the sack on his bicycle and stabbed it on the ground, saying, If that kid bothers me again, I'll fight him. If it's a big deal, the white knife goes in and the red knife goes out. Kong Lingguang suddenly saw a shiny knife, and his facial muscles couldn't help twitching twice. He had been pampered since childhood and couldn't bear to endure hardship, let alone fight hard. Picking up his thumb, Kong Lingguang exclaimed in admiration, with great righteousness and determination, I would rather die than surrender. You are the revolutionary hero. Chu Guochang monopolized the buying and selling of eggs in the agricultural market, selling large ones for 1 cent and small ones for 8 cents. Kong Lingguang's eggs were all sold for 7 cents, so they were quickly sold out. At this time, only 1/3 of Wang Weidong's vegetables were sold. Kong Lingguang didn't leave and still squatted there chatting with Wang Weidong. His chubby face was full of smiles, and the two young people became more and more compatible as they talked. Wang, once you finish selling the vegetables, I'll treat you to a meal. It's been a long time since we had such a great conversation. Let's chat while eating, Kong Lingguang said. Yesterday, Chu Guochang gave Kong Lingguang 2 yuan and asked him to invite Wang Weidong to drink to reveal his secrets. However, he was reluctant to take out the money that had entered Kong Lingguang's pocket. He was now planning to pretend to be generous and finally ask Wang Weidong to pay him for a meal. No, my grandmother can't see, I need to go back and cook for her, Wang Weidong instinctively postponed. Wang Weidong, who has traveled back from the 21st century, has experienced too many hongmen banquets. If someone invites you to a 100 yuan meal, they may want to take out 10,000 yuan from you. There is no wine to drink for free, no rice to eat for free. Brother Wang, why are you doing this? Aren't you trying to save my face? Kong Lingguang pretended to be angry and said. I really can't do it today. Leaving my grandmother at home alone and eating and drinking outside, am I still human, explained Wang Weidong. Ah, I think of my grandmother too when you say that, Kong Lingguang sighed. As it was almost 10 o'clock, Wang Weidong put the last remaining vegetables into a basket and planned to go back to eat with his grandmother. He pushed his bicycle and bid farewell to Kong Lingguang. Watching Wang Weidong leave, Kong Lingguang turned around and walked to Chu Guochang's side. He was very careless in doing so, but even the most talented fraudster in the 1970s cannot compare to the ordinary fraudster in the 21st century. He left so soon. Didn't I ask you to treat him to dinner? Chu Guochang asked. Take your time, tomorrow, I will definitely give you confidence. Kong Lingguang said confidently. Gradually getting along with each other and becoming friends, the last 2 yuan is for oneself, and Wang Weidong can willingly treat himself to dinner. Kong Lingguang is very confident in his abilities. When Wang Weidong came home at noon, he saw that the congee in the pot did not move at all. Grandma Huang Guiying still lay on the kong without getting up. Grandma, why don't you get up to eat? Wang Weidong asked. Huang Guiying flipped over and ignored her grandson. She still cannot forgive Wang Weidong for taking the initiative to sell vegetables. There are over half a pound of potatoes that are slightly larger than a thumb in the remaining dishes, and Wang Weidong plans to make them into sauce potatoes. When the dishes were ready, Wang Weidong sat at the table and ate the rest of the congee. You old lady is going on a hunger strike with me. When you pass out from hunger, I will send you to the hospital to get glucose. Don't worry, you won't die so easily. Wang Weidong said while eating. If you just die like this, who will take care of the children for me when I have them in the future? Wang Weidong continued. Who would be willing to marry the girl to you just like you are now? Huang Guiying said angrily. She choked up in the end. Don't worry, I will definitely find the most beautiful and filial one. Wang Weidong replied. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. No Promise 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. No Promise 3. In the evening, Wang Haifu and Li Yufeng walked into the house rented by Wang Weidong. Wang Haifu glared angrily at his son, while Li Yufeng looked at him with tears in her eyes. The two of them used various tactics against the enemy, one hard and one soft, one singing a white face and the other singing a red face, without consulting. The two of them walked to the edge of the kong and lowered their heads to call Huang Guiying mom. Huang Guiying lay on her side, her face facing the wall, completely ignoring the two of them. You're making your grandmother angry. Wang Haifu said angrily. How could you do this? Li Yufeng said with a resentful tone. This kind of parental habit towards his children has no effect on Wang Weidong, he is simply indifferent. The great leader taught us to do it ourselves, to have plenty of food and clothing. Should I lie at home eating and drinking from you, and get something for nothing? Wang Weidong asked in response. Wang Haifu and Li Yufeng remained silent as if they had not heard Wang Weidong's question. In a few more months, when I go to recruit soldiers in the autumn, I will go find the people from the factory's armed department. I will send you to join the army whatever I say, said Wang Haifu. In this era, becoming a soldier is something that young people flock to. Soldiers have a high social status, and more importantly, the country needs to arrange work after discharge. I won't go, I think selling vegetables is good. Wang Weidong replied. Do you mean to have your father take over after retirement? Li Yufeng questioned. Huang Guiying, lying on the Kong, instantly widened her eyes. It turned out that she had wrongly blamed her precious grandson these past few days. It turned out that Wang Weidong was trying to force his father Wang Haifu to retire and let him take over by selling vegetables. If Wang Weidong is not allowed to take over, he will embarrass his parents. What's not good about exercising in the army for a few years? The factory will still arrange work for you after you come back. Wang Haifu asked. I won't go, I have already exercised enough in the vast countryside for a few years, and what needs to be exercised is my brother, Wang Weidong replied. Your brother has never left home since he was young and can't eat. Li Yufeng felt guilty at this point. In the following 2 hours, regardless of his father's stern scolding or his mother's pleading, Wang Weidong remained indifferent and unwavering in his heart to provide logistical services for the cadres and staff in the county town. Wang Haifu and Li Yufeng left dejected, and Huang Guiying wanted to get up from the Kong, but her limbs were weak and she couldn't get up at all. I have been on a hunger strike for a whole day, and the old lady is dizzy and has no strength at all. Help me up quickly, cook for me, I'm starving. Huang Guiying said. The next day, Wang Weidong cooked and ate as usual, and then pushed the cart out to pick up the dishes. When he entered the market, he saw the old lady who had already occupied a good position waiting for him. Weidong. Kong Lingguang also appeared carrying a basket containing eggs. Today, he still has to squeeze by Wang Weidong's side to sell eggs and reveal Wang Weidong's background. Wang Weidong nodded to him and laid out a burlap bag, pouring the tomatoes from the old lady's basket onto the burlap bag. Every day, for 2 or 3 cents, the old lady gets up early and walks back and forth for more than 10 miles. Kong Lingguang showed great enthusiasm and quickly helped Wang Weidong place dishes on the sack. Wang Weidong arranged 2 bricks and sat on one for Kong Lingguang to sit on. He handed Kong Lingguang a tomato and carefully examined it while holding a yellow one. In the memory of future generations, he also ate yellow tomatoes when he was a child, but later the yellow tomatoes slowly disappeared. What's even more regrettable is that tomatoes are becoming increasingly unappetizing. Wang Weidong took a bite and the juice of the tomato sprayed onto his clothes. He didn't care and continued to eat big bites. Kong Lingguang said vaguely while eating, "Don't run away today. Let's have a good meal together and buy an extra dish to bring back to your grandmother when we leave." "All right, I'll treat you today." Wang Weidong answered boldly. He has a good impression of Kong Lingguang, a talkative and knowledgeable peer. Wang Weidong chatted with Kong Lingguang while selling vegetables. Kong Lingguang finished a tomato and picked it up from the pile of tomatoes with a big appearance to eat. After a while, Kong Lingguang stood up and said, "Can you help me take a look for a while? I need to find a place to pee." It seems that 2 large tomatoes have had an effect in his stomach. Wang Weidong didn't pay attention and continued to sell vegetables. Suddenly, a thin person pressed against his back. Wang Weidong quickly turned around and saw the old lady who had just sold him tomatoes standing behind him. "Auntie, haven't we already given you the money?" Wang Weidong said. "Young man, it's not this matter. I've been waiting by the side for half a day. You have to be careful with the egg seller. He's with the egg seller at the intersection. I've seen them talking and laughing together several times before," said the old lady. At this point, the old lady turned around and left, afraid of being seen and retaliated against by Kong Lingguang. The so-called good people often mean being timid and afraid of things. It is not a big deal for a person to bully the market in a farmer's market. If everyone stands up together, it is because bad people are afraid of good people. But from ancient times to the present, there have been fewer and fewer good people standing up, and everyone is waiting for others to stand up as good people. The better it is to be a good person, the worse the outcome. It's already very good to secretly report to Wang Weidong like the old lady. Other people in the market may not have noticed it, but they are all watching coldly. In their hearts, Chu Guochang, who monopolized the egg business in the agricultural market with Wang Weidong that day, actually earned them even more respect. The reason is simple. Only those who can harm them can be respected, and good people do not need to be respected. Such people are fools who can be thrown away after using them. What a stink! Kong Lingguang returned and sat on the brick, saying, "The buried public toilets make people vomit, and those who enter should close their eyes and hold their breath." Wang Weidong turned his head to look at Kong Lingguang's chubby and honest face, innocent and bright smile, and pure and innocent eyes. Is what the old lady said just now true? The kid in front of me is with the scoundrel Chu Guochang who monopolizes the egg business in the market. Weidong, you should bring an extra piece of clothing. If it's cold in the morning, it's better to wear more, Kong Lingguang said thoughtfully. Wang Weidong's eyes became more hesitant. How could such a good young man be a bad person? He continued to sell vegetables, and by noon they were almost sold. He could take the rest home to eat with his grandmother, and at most give some to the landlord Sun Yotsai's house. Let's go to the restaurant. Since he promised to invite Kong Lingguang to drink this morning, he must fulfill it. A sliced meat, a tofu mixed with scallions, and inviting people to drink in the 1970s were already very sincere. Kong Lingguang's eyes lit up. He earned 2 yuan from Chu Guochang for nothing, but Wang Weidong invited him to drink instead. He would not thank Wang Weidong for this, but rather admire his own abilities in his heart. Kong Lingguang can deceive everyone with just one mouth and face. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Mature People. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Mature People. After the two men drank half a gin of white wine, Kong Lingguang's face became whiter and whiter, while Wang Weidong's face was red as if bleeding. "Weidong, don't you feel frustrated? We're so young and don't even have a serious job." Kong Lingguang asked. Due to the old lady's reminder, Wang Weidong decided not to tell the truth when asked by the young man with a simple and innocent face in front of him. "Ah, why not hold back? But there's nothing I can do," sighed Wang Weidong. Kong Lingguang nodded frequently, like brothers who share the same fate as Wang Weidong. "Actually, I had a chance. How about the mutant rubber factory? Is that okay?" Wang Weidong asked thoughtlessly. Kong Lingguang reacted quickly and immediately understood Wang Weidong's meaning. "Why don't you go?" Kong Lingguang asked. Wang Weidong possessed himself and almost leaned close to Kong Lingguang on the table, whispering, "I told you, you must not tell anyone." Kong Lingguang quickly leaned his head towards Wang Weidong. "I will never tell anyone, can't you still trust me?" Kong Lingguang said. Wang Weidong lowered his voice and said, "Didn't I tell you before that my grandfather was a founding employee of the Xianyang chemical plant? There's no way I don't know my grandfather's name from the Xianyang chemical plant. But I didn't tell you my grandfather's biological brother. My grandfather's brother joined the Democratic United Army in 4 or 6 years, followed the troops to fight from northeast China for 2 years, then crossed the Yellow River and Yangtze River from Pingjin to Guangzhou, and then went north to cross the Yalu River to fight against the American Devils. In 5 or 3 years, he returned to China and worked locally, Wang Weidong said with saliva flying. Kong Lingguang's eyes widened as he listened. It has been proven that ordinary fraudsters who have traveled back from the 21st century are still much more skilled in deception than those who had talent in the 1970s. After all, times are different. In the 1970s, you could believe over 90 sentences of what others said. So you're running here to sell vegetables? Kong Lingguang pursued. My uncle is actually afraid that others will know about our relationship when I go to the factory. If I don't behave well and embarrass him, he still cares about me in his heart. During this period, I will definitely behave well and rely on my own hands to support myself. Wang Weidong replied. This sentence has a profound meaning that he still has a good chance. Kong Lingguang stared at Wang Weidong's flushed face, unable to tell the truth. Because there were not many scammers in the 1970s, he had not yet encountered any opponents, and because of this, his ability to identify scammers was not high. Towards noon, the two of them broke up at the entrance of the restaurant, and Wang Weidong rode his bike home. Kong Lingguang went to find Chu Guochang. After paraphrasing Wang Weidong's words, Kong Lingguang watched Chu Guochang's reaction. Chu Guochang squinted his eyes and said, "This kid is bragging about not paying taxes." However, Kong Lingguang could see that Chu Guochang was not confident, and he was not sure if Wang Weidong's words were true. Just let this kid go, we won't pay attention to him in the future. Chu Guochang pretended to be magnanimous and said. Chu Guochang does anything unethical, threatening the old men and women who sell eggs in the market, asking them to sell them to him at extremely low prices. He even started beating a few old men and women. Although seemingly reckless and rogue, Chu Guochang is actually a very intelligent person. Wang Weidong rode his bike for more than 10 miles back home and saw his grandmother eat the breakfast he had left for him. He decided to cook lunch and dinner together in a few hours. At around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Wang walked into the room dejected, with 2 Jiang Fan cigarettes under his armpits. Wang Haifu was born before the liberation, so Wang Weidong's grandfather gave his son the name Haifu, which means very, very much in the northeastern dialect. Wang Xianjin and Wang Weidong were born in the late 1950s and early 1960s, so their names are very dated. Wang Xian put 2 cigarettes on the Kong and said with a deflated stomach, "I bought them for you." The relationship between the two brothers has been strained since childhood. Wang Xianjin never even bought a 3-cent popsicle for his brother Wang Weidong. This time he had to come and buy. The parents wanted Wang Xianjin, the son, to take over, but if Wang Weidong rode his bicycle to sell vegetables every day, the people in the factory would point fingers at him. His older brother took over, while his younger brother, who had worked hard in the mountains and countryside for several years, went to sell vegetables to make a living. A person lives in one breath, a tree lives in one skin. Wang Xianxian can't withstand this pressure, and what do others think of his parents? Would it be said that Wang Haifu and Li Yufeng have biased eyes? Our dad and mom said they will give you 10 yuan every month in the future, and I will also give you 10 yuan. You can stay at home for a few months, go to the military in the autumn, and come back with a job, Wang Xianxian pleaded as he looked at his brother. I won't go. What will grandma do if I leave? Wang Weidong replied. We can take care of both our dad, mom, and me, Wang Xian replied. You take care of me. I'm not at ease. Wang Weidong answered forcefully. Huang Guoying was deeply moved by this, although she felt that Wang Weidong's ultimate goal in acting was to give Wang Xianjin the opportunity to take over. Do you insist that I give you the opportunity to take over? Wang Xianjin stood up and shouted angrily at Wang Weidong. In the face of interests, any kind of intimate relationship cannot withstand the test, and even a big fight is not uncommon. Wang Weidong looked at his brother slowly and said, I know our dad and mom want you to take over. If I don't argue with you, you can take over. If you're 4 or 5 years older than me and don't find a partner, you'll be late. Who would be willing to marry you if you don't take over? In the future, I will also tell others that it's because I don't want to take over, not for any other reason. You go back and tell our dad and mom, let them rest assured that I will take good care of my grandmother. Wang Xianxian looked at Wang Weidong without speaking, feeling that he was very hypocritical. Wang Weidong wanted to use this method to exert tremendous moral pressure on him, forcing him to say that he would give the opportunity to take over to his brothers. My brother is so kind and righteous. If he doesn't do this, it would be too damn. Wang Xian spoke up and said, okay. This is what you said. You don't want to take over. Don't regret it in the future. What's embarrassing? Being shameless in front of interests is not even worth it. This is what a mature person should do. Mature people don't need face, those who need face are immature. Yes, I don't want to take over myself, Wang Weidong said calmly. Wang Xianjin turned around and walked outside. In the outer room, Sun Yukai and Xia Yulan watched as Wang Xianjin walked out. Wang Xianjin quickly lowered his head to prevent the two of them from seeing his face. Sun Yukai walked in and patted Wang Weidong's shoulder, sighing and saying, Weidong, how kind and righteous. But. Sigh. End of this chapter.